And it's amazing in this world what one tweet can do. I think that's another amazing thing, right? That I think what we've seen over the last few years, we've seen some of the most powerful men get taken off these sites, right? Kanye West is the richest man in the culture, right? And then you have the most powerful black man in America, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right? Then you had the president of the United States, Donald Trump. He was censored and deplatformed as well. So what we're seeing in today's age, you got to ask yourself, who has the power to censor? Who actually runs the world? Who actually controls and has the most power within the world? I don't actually have to state it, right? There's a paradigm means that instead of telling people what something is, you allow them to come to conclusions by presenting evidences, right? And allowing people to come to their own conclusion about reality. There's a few questions that everybody must ask themselves. There's a lot of forbidden information that can never be thrown out there, right? And it's amazing today that we're seeing issues like Adidas dropping Kanye West, because Adidas itself is a German brand that has Nazi ties. Isn't that interesting? A German brand that has Nazi ties, and this is not a brand that's been canceled by, right, the power structure, but a couple of interviews and a tweet can take down a black billionaire, so-calledly, right? Because what is the idea of canceling people? What is the idea of severing ties with business partnerships in America? What does that mean, right? That's the question that we must ask ourselves first. What does it mean? How much does it mean? Anna Wintour, who has no particular influence in the culture, what does that mean when she says she's cutting ties with Ye? What does it mean when Ye makes Adidas hot and they cut ties with him while he was in a bad deal with a no-compete clause, and they own all the current colorways, they own all the current styles, right? And they said that they're going to lose $200 million in revenue by leaving and losing Kanye West. What does that mean is the question first, because everybody who's losing Ye is actually losing money. It's not the other way around. First of all, right? Evaluations and things of that nature and how you leverage what means a billion, and that's a whole nother conversation. But first of all, what does it mean is the question, because a lot of these things that we're seeing in the media, we assume that they actually mean something. We assume that it has a large amount of value, right? But what does it actually mean? What does it mean when CAA, who is a talent agency, they had a touring contract with Kanye West, and he hasn't done touring since 2016, right? Cut him off. What does that mean if they wasn't making no money and doing no business? Like, let's say Apple decides to take all Kanye West streaming. What does it mean when Kanye West already put out his music independently in his last album? I want y'all to get to this point, because whether it's him and whether you agree with the remarks or not, it's the same thing as PayPal saying that they're going to charge people $2,500 and cut them off of their payment platform if you say things that they disagree with. What does it mean nowadays to be cut off if you have your own? That's the question I want us to answer first and foremost, because this is the more important question. If the contract was bad in the first place, what does it mean to lose? If you're already going actively against everybody who's saying that they're cutting you off, it actually sounds first and foremost like Kanye cut them off first. I'm just saying, is that not what happened? Did Kanye not cut them off first? Did he not cancel them first? But he doesn't control that narrative, right? So he first said he didn't like Adidas. He said they was raping him in his deal. He said Gap was the devil. You understand me? He talked about all of these different people. He counseled them, if I'm not mistaken. And it took them a long time to figure out whether they wanted to sever ties, because he was bringing them so much value. Am I not mistaken? Am I not mistaken? I just want to first understand this psychologically. This ain't about whether you agree with anything first. It's about first understanding the psychological aspect of how we view things because of who controls the narrative. The narrative was never Kanye's counseling these people, but he has that power, don't he, to counsel somebody? If he adds a large percent of value and revenue and evaluation to one's business, and he counseled them, the only thing he didn't have the ability to was say, I want out this contract completely and have power over that, because he signed a bad contract, which is most likely why he was crying about not having information, and why he was mad the fact that he has all of these friends and all these walks of life and nobody was giving him the game. This is what we get mad at the most, when we know all these people and ain't nobody giving us the game. We like, wait the hell a minute. Why nobody told me and pre-warned me that I was getting myself into these slave contracts? And why is it I'm fighting these people by myself? And so, desperate measures. A lot of different things had to happen before this took place. And it really shows you, because I know a lot of black men that are dealing and suffering with mental issues because of the stress of being a black man in America. Literally, I know people who are a shell of themselves. They still got their intelligence and their faculties about them, but stress causes mental illness as well. Just stress itself. It can destroy neurons, right? And cause inflammation in the brain to where you can't even think straight. Now, I'm not saying the brother's crazy, but I am saying the brother is suffering from stress. He said lack of sleep. That can cause a person to definitely trip out. You may not be able to come back from that insomnia. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there's no empathy at all. Dame Dash said the best thing. He said, you know, if you love him, you know, why would you put the camera in front of his face if you're thinking a person is going through something? But when you want to exploit somebody, then of course you will. And I'm not saying you got to have sympathy, whether you want to or not. You should always have empathy. And a lot of y'all are supposed to be Christians, so you're supposed to forgive anyway. I'm just saying, isn't that the Christian way? We know it's not the other people's way. They said we ain't doing no forgiveness over this side. But see, the one thing I admire about about the Anti-Defamation League is they don't tolerate nothing. They don't tolerate nothing. They don't care if you tell the truth. They don't care if you tell a lie. They don't care if it was small, it was big, nothing. They don't. We don't have that. We don't have that. See, when we get mad at people and they commit anti-blackness, right? And if they commit anti-blackness, we don't have the power to say, hey, I'm going to make this call and get everybody to counsel you. We ain't got that. But they said that they set up a system purposely for situations like this to counteract any resistance. But I got questions for you all. I just want to ask a couple questions. And I'm not trying to force any information in your brains. You know, I remember years ago, you know, there was a big thing about black people being mad at the Yemen Society and Arabs. And we would say Arabs. We didn't point out and say which Arab we was talking about. We just said we talked to Arabs having all these liquor stores in our community. And that was fine to say. But Arabs don't have that kind of power to be counseling stuff because they're not running shit like that. That's fine to say because it's evident that when you walk outside and a lot of these Arabs, they own liquor stores in black communities. So you say, man, these niggas got, this is terrible, the fact that they got these liquor stores. And they be like, well, we just trying to feed our family. And they literally got a Yemen Society in Oakland where they all know each other and they all talk to each other. So you're not going to just say one person named, yo, I don't like Akbar, I don't like Muhammad over here. No, you're going to say, yo, these Arabs got all of these goddamn businesses. The Yemen Society got all of these businesses that are liquor stores in our community, but they would never do that in theirs. Matter of fact, they consider it haram. It's crazy, right? But that's okay to call out. I remember when the Black sisters was getting assaulted by Asian store owners in Black communities. And when they go into the stores, they treat it like shit, right? And sometimes there's the Asian store owners as well in the liquor stores, right? Same thing. We call them out. Ain't no problem. Nobody consider that to be anti-Asian because we know we're not talking about every Asian on the planet Earth. We just talking about them specific people that treat people like that, and we're not going to name every different name of the person directly. We're going to talk about that because we want them to address it as a community. Right? We want that responsibility to fall on that community of people. We're not condemning a whole race of people. We're just saying that you all have a responsibility because you find it culturally acceptable as a community and you benefit from it. So we say as a community, y'all got to accept responsibility. You can't, don't get mad at the person for how they call out the problem. Get mad at the problem for existing and the people who caused the problem. See, this is deflection when you start blaming the victim, right? Instead of the person that creates the victim in the circumstance, right? Different. The perpetrator is the one you have to focus on. But we now at this point in society, we blaming the victim for calling out the perpetrator and how they called out the perpetrator. Well, he said, no, never mind that they committed the crime. Never mind that they did a wrong, but the way you called them out was wrong. Whoa, when did that become the narrative? How the hell is that a narrative? The way you call out somebody. No, so we can call out, there's literally issues right now about Black and brown alliances in LA. And when people call that out, it ain't no issue. Every goddamn Hispanic, Mexican, Latinx person, no, we not talking about everybody. We not talking about all y'all. We love you. But we know we call out communities and we call out ethnic backgrounds when we're dealing with people, right, that we know you can help influence this to be better. So when we call out the Black community, we call out the rap community, we call out the entertainment community, we call out multiple communities at once because we're talking to the people who have and enjoy a collective influence and control over this structure and industry. And everybody knows this. Every Black person that I talk to, white person as well, Jewish person as well, Asian, Mexican, I talk to, everybody agrees behind the scenes, but in front of the scenes, they say, well, I got to tone switch a little bit, brother. I got to go with the narrative because I don't want to mess up my checks. I don't, that's the whole game though, right? You got it when your money is connected, you understand me? Then you can't disrespect it. Come on, man. We know how the game goes. Come on, man. I ain't saying nothing new. I'm just saying something true. Come on, man. So when you call out the industry and when I see an entertainer and they're complaining about, man, these contracts, these 360 deals, who pioneered the 360 deal? When I see NFL players calling out the NFL, the only question is, okay, well, who is the power of the NFL? That's the only question there is to ask. When we call out social media companies for being anti-Black against Black voices, right? And censoring us for not, and they not being culturally relevant and having inherent tech bias built into their algorithms. Well, who owns and controls that? Because we're not talking about Black, brown people. We're not talking about Asian people. So now it got to get to a point where you have the ability to call out wrong and a conversation starts. See, there has to be an ability to have a conversation about right and wrong. I seen it was a Jewish guy. He was online. He was explaining, because he said, you know what? I hear what Kanye West is saying. He was playing the clips of the show. He said, I hear what Kanye West is saying. He said, I agree with it. He said, I agree. Kanye West is saying we're good with money. So this Jewish guy said, well, let me teach y'all about how we good with money. He said, we're good at creating businesses. Let me teach y'all. He said, he's not lying. He's just, that faction doesn't embrace that. They consider everything to be an attack, right? But if you're not a part of the wrongdoers, then you shouldn't protect the people that's doing wrong. But the moment that you protect the people that's doing wrong, because you say that it may cause it may be a catalyst because of a historical event that has happened. No, that does not absolve you of your wrongdoing because of a historic event that has happened. That's like black people in America saying that, well, I can continue to rob, steal, and kill because we were slaves. I can do what I want to do because they put the crack epidemic on us. No, we say that this is part of the purpose and reasoning why, well, we're poor, so if I rob you, it's okay because, look, they created black codes back in the day. They wouldn't allow our family to own homes and get real estate. Right? We had to fight. We had issues with civil rights. They used to spray hoses on us. They used to lynch us and they used to beat us. So you know how sensitive you should be about black people in America? If we're doing it based on historical events and context, then that means that there should be not a word that you say that dehumanizes us, because this is why they were able to justify their treatment against black people in America, because they said that we was 3/5 of a human being. So any statement you say that is closely related to any dehumanization, anything you say, you should be counseled for. Matter of fact, you should not even be allowed to be in a position of ownership over a black person because of what happened to us historically. We shouldn't even have bosses and managers of any other race if we're using the same exact context. Why? Because this is exactly what led to the issues in the past. Well, I'm just saying, if we taking your blueprint, I'm not saying nothing. No, I'm just saying if we taking your blueprint, if we following that same exact blueprint that justifies your truth, then that same truth has to be justified on this end. See, we got to be careful with our words today. I can't say certain things. You can't say what you want to say. No. The guy who pioneered 360 deals is also the same guy who running YouTube, Larry Cohen. When Dame Dash called him out, the whole world knew it was true. 360 deals, think about that. You giving niggas loans for their life. Saying that I want a piece of everything. How far back does this practice go is the question. Because when we were being sold, right? When we were being sold, on the chopping block, look, somebody asked, are white people the problem? You can come to your own conclusion. I'm just here to present the evidence. That's all I'm here to do. I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm just presenting and let you come to your own conclusion. Because you can't fight me when you're forced to come to a conclusion. All I'm doing is saying just 1 + 1 = 2. And if it equals that, that's your mathematical equation that come to that conclusion, not mine. That's all I'm here to do. see, I unlike Kanye West, I do know how to speak in a very mathematical way. You understand me? To where I can be extremely tactful if I want to, or I can be extremely blunt. But if you come to that conclusion, how you mad at me? If I ask you who owns and who controls and who did what, and you say, well, this person did it, so does that mean that they bad? Whoa. That's your deductive reasoning working, and you're mad at the conclusion that you came up with, and it's creating a feeling of guilt, and you're asking me to absolve the guilt, and you're trying to create a system of deflection from the conclusion that you came up with by talking about my biasness before presenting the evidence. See, man, I'm a thinker, man. You understand me? They don't want us to be thinking like this, to be able to communicate like this on the highest level. But see, I'm different. Yeah, it's supreme mathematics. Yes, sir, it is. So when we go look at the history, man, I seen Jerry Seinfeld's wife. She was leading a petition against Kanye West. And she was asking everybody to submit this petition against Adidas, who has an historic, evidential ties to Nazism as a German brand. But she's asking them to cut ties with Kanye West for his tweets, which is just interesting. I'm just saying that. Now, Larry David, who wrote the show that made her husband rich, right? Larry David, he's brilliant. I actually like Larry David. He's funny, he's blunt, right? And I like people that are blunt, because I think that people that are blunt and that are open about what they say, I think they actually are the least racist. Or I ain't gonna say race, I think they're at least hateful, right? Because a lot of people have hate and they hide it, right? But I like Larry David. He's funny. brilliantly funny man. Man, I ain't taking nothing away from him. But he was on one of those shows about ancestors, and they brought up the fact that his ancestors, and Larry David, of course, he's a Jewish guy, and they brought up his ancestors, and they said his ancestors owned slaves. He's chuckling at the news that he's getting about his ancestors. They presented to him, they show his ancestry. He said, oh, he's laughing. Damn, my ancestors owned slaves. That's the chuckle that when he found out that they were a part of the slave trade. Like it never went viral. You know what I'm saying? It was never an issue. You know what I'm saying? It was never a problem or anything. Nah, it's just he chuckled and he went on about his business as a rich man, a very wealthy man. It's interesting though, because if found out that any black person, because there was no black people that had anything to do with the Holocaust, not one. There was none of us, none. But there were many people that had to do with slavery. They had to do with redlining. They have to do with 360 deals. They have to do with the pipeline to prison. They have to do with experimentation on black men. Right? They have to do with a multitude of different things, black codes, right? All of these different things, the owning, selling, auctioning of slaves, buying of slaves. We can go do trace root lineage. And all I'm saying is the fairness of reality is to address all of these things equally. But see, our problem, because I'm not putting it on that community, the issue is ownership. Our problem is that we don't take ownership for collective systematic empowerment. Collective systematic empowerment. Who create the tropes around black people, which are the most dangerous tropes? Look at, you know, the Woman King movie about slavers. Another movie, funded, no problem. Who owns Wakanda? Oh no, I know we like it. We about to go give a lot of money to Wakanda, me included. But who owns it? See, we start to find a common thread. Who owns Wakanda? Who did Ryan Coogler have to go talk to when he signed his deal to direct Wakanda? You got to know what's going on. So this is why there's this feeling and there's these issues between two communities, because there's never been an honest conversation ever on the mainstream platform that wasn't biased. Never. So there will never be any resolve until that happens. There has to be guilt. There has to be some guilt. That guilt should create change. What's the most negative tropes that are out there against black people? We know that it exists in every single song. So you can talk about murder and killing black people. You can talk about, right, all of these different things. Nobody has, listen, look at Charleston White, right? Charleston White has went on record and disrespected every rapper he could think of. And everybody can think of, yet black media still picks him up. Black media still interviews him and things of that nature. Right? But Andrew Tate got canceled. He's a half black man, got canceled fast because he was gaining too much influence and he was talking about a power structure. But why is there no collective against Charleston White? Because he's talking about black people. See, when you're anti-black and you talk about black, there's no problem with it. Whether it's truthful, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether it's negative or not. As long as you're not talking about anybody else besides black, then it's okay. Kanye West didn't get canceled for putting a White Lives Matter shirt on. No, because that's not enough. Adidas would never end a relationship with Kanye West for no shit like that. Is you crazy? They hit y'all with the Ice Spice. You thought I was feeling you? Black Quarter Munch. Is you crazy? They would have never ended it for nothing like that. They didn't even consider that to be an issue. They said, is you crazy? You thought I was feeling you? That's what they hit us with. But then he said something against the other brothers, and they said, listen, I don't know what you thought this was. We ain't them. They said, listen, I don't know what you thought this was. We ain't them. Nah, you ain't getting away with this. But I just want us to understand that a lot of the stuff that we see in media is the most dangerous, because media don't matter. It matters in the sense that they have power, but the narration that they are able to spell into the mind is far from what reality is. And whatever media puts out, people believe because they don't have time to think.